Hello. Welcome to episode 33 of Lesbian Talk, otherwise known as, if you reverse it, episode 33.
I'm shocked.
Shocked, alarmed, appalled, and a bit turned on.
Wait, what?
I have 3 cats in this room.
You do? How thin?
Yeah. There's the 2 cats who are purring on my bed, and there's a giant plushy one on the floor.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your neighbor's cat came in again.
Nah, she hasn't come in since the cats turned up.
Oh. Well, it makes sense, I guess. She might fight them.
But we have a rip-roaring rampage of an episode today.
Rip-roaring rampage.
Which pretty much means, as per usual, we decide what we're going to talk about, and then we sort of wing it. So, if this is not funny, we apologize. Send us amusing books like Spoken Cats. We can laugh our heads off at them.
Shut up. We're enriching your life right now. At least that's what I tell Blip, so that they keep me on, so.
Enrich. What was our word from last week?
It was allure.
Allure.
To be alluring.
Well, I think we could talk about whether dead going to die or chirpy or something.
That's the exact opposite of what that word means.
You're not allured by the idea of an animated bird having sex with an animated horse?
No, I'm not. Gotta be honest right there. I think the only good thing about that movie was the fact that the opening line was the opening line from your review of it.
I actually don't like my opening line from that review. I like the very start of it. I wish I'd cut it off with "Who wants to see a horse fuck a bird?" I wish I'd cut it off there. I don't like that I knew you did.
I love that. Because it implies that, you know, your audience is just as depraved as you are, and even if we're like, oh my gosh, that's horrible, we still want to watch you review it.
Well, it's mine. I don't think I did it very well.
Well, I'm your wife, and I'm always right, so.
Well, it just goes to show, you know, my opinion on my show is quite often different from everyone else's.
Yes, but like I said, I'm your wife. Also, I'm American, so I always win.
You always win. That's why, at the time of this recording, your country is trying to destroy the entire world economy because of a couple of fuckwits. That's
them, not me personally.
Yeah, but they're Americans, so they have to win.
Yeah, but only when they're arguing with you, and they're not arguing with you right now, so.
You have a really, really special type of pleading going on there. You could almost call it some sort of a fallacy.
No, it's the logical fallacy of I'm always right, so you lose.
So you admit it's a logical fallacy?
No, that's the one that you use, and I'm like, I'm always right, and you're like, oh no, defeated again. This is how a Phil and Sire relationship works, everybody.
Yep, we are, hopefully amusing.
We are debate sexual, that's what we are. Instead of homosexual.
So, we're going to talk about, for the next little bit anyway, the Emmanuel movies, because...
I mean, I love you.
It's the closest thing to allure that I can easily
because I ain't alluring, I tell you what.
But you're not media related, and we tend to talk about media stuff.
This is true, but lest you think, oh, Chris, you can talk about Emmanuel, I'm just going to fast forward. Don't. Because the second half of the show, we have a totally awesome topic to discuss. We have a totally awesome special guest to talk with.
And they're being kept a mystery, although I'm pretty sure their name is in the description or the title of the episode or something.
Maybe they blindly clicked shh. Also, last episode got aggregated somewhere, and I'm not sure how, but we were aggregated through, I think, an automatic bot that grouped us with other podcasts about Doctor Who, because we were talking about it, which was 2 days before they released the identity of the unknown episodes. So we had a really high view count of people who probably only watched it for a few, listened to a few minutes. We're like, this isn't Doctor Who, shut up! So that was you.
Did we get any cruel comments?
We didn't get any comments, actually, and I don't even know if I'm going to get any revenue for it, because the amount of views in that short of a time was so suspicious to me. I emailed Blip, and I said, I think there are bots on my page. Can you take a look? Because if those views are illegitimate, I don't want to get in trouble from Blip over it, so.
Oh, you won't get in trouble. But the, Emmanuel movies, in case you didn't know, the first Emmanuel movie came out in the 70s. It was based on a book by, Emmanuel Arzon, something like that. It purported to be the tales of this woman in Bangkok having sex with everyone. She worked for, like, the ambassador or something. I got a copy of the Emmanuel book, but
Thanks.
it's been a while since I read it. I bought the book to use as a prop in my Emmanuel 4 review. And then the shot that it's used in, no one can actually tell it's the Emmanuel book because it's so fucking small.
One Night in Bangkok makes a French film pretentious. I don't know.
But it was adapted into the famous films of the same title. Though ironically, it was later discovered that Emmanuel, the woman who wrote it, she didn't write it. Apparently, it was this guy this man wrote it.
A very horny, very imaginative man writing fan fiction about diplomats.
About being this woman having sex with all the people in Thailand.
Yeah, that sounds about right for some fan fiction.
Yeah. So, I have obviously to date done 2 Emmanuel movie reviews, Emmanuel 4 and Emmanuel 5. In my 5th season, there shall be another Emmanuel movie review that will be Emmanuel in America, which is not actually the same canon as the original Emmanuel films.
I like that there's like about a bajillion movies, and some of them are considered non-canon.
Well, it's actually it's even more ridiculous than that, because you got the first 5 Emmanuel films, which are definitely in continuity with each other. Sorry, the first 4. And then I think for Emmanuel 6 debatably could be in the same canon. I think it's 6 is the one that Sylvia Crystal comes back, or is it 7? I can't remember.
Yes, but there's also an Emmanuel in space, honey.
Yeah, well, I'll explain. You've got those 4, and the other one maybe, which is like all connected. Then you've got the other canon Emmanuel films, which apparently are all set in the same universe, and the producer explained that Emmanuel, after Emmanuel 4, Emmanuel is not a woman. Emmanuel is a spirit that takes over all women in their lifetime at least once, which makes them go off and have sex with everyone. And the films are about different women being possessed by the spirit of Emmanuel and having sex with everyone. And it's not a literal spirit, it's just a I want to have sex type thing. And that includes the Emmanuel
That
and
sounds like
Space
some kind
series.
of vaguely anime kind of thing.
Yeah. But that includes the 7-film Emmanuel and Space
I wonder if you
series.
could use that, as like a pickup line. If you're like trying to pick up a guy in a bar and you're like, "Oh, sorry, I was just overcome by the spirit of Emmanuel who possesses all women at some point or other. Let's go have lots of sex." They'll be like, "Okay."
And then
that sounds good.
The guy would be like, "I had no idea Rahm Emanuel was so interesting."
That's great.
But included in this, there's probably around 50 to 70 of these canon Emmanuel films. They're canon because they were produced by the same guy. And that includes the Emmanuel in Space series, which I have all 7 films of. I'm going to do something with them, I'm not entirely sure what.
It always makes me think of that old Saturday Night Live bit from the 70s. Jews in space.
French women
It's a
having
thing.
sex
Look
in
it up.
space.
Before you call me anti-Semitic, it happened. Saturday Night Live, look it up.
So, but then, I think it was the Italians decided to rip off Emmanuel and create the Black Emmanuel series, which is really ironic because the woman who stars in the Black Emmanuel thing, she isn't actually black, she's Indonesian. Laura Jamser. And so she made all these films, which are basically similar to Emmanuel, but much more sexually explicit, and they usually included other things than just sex, like, say, torture or, other things.
So she was like Emmanuel and Ilsa at the same time?
Tonally it was a little bit like a cross between the two, but she wasn't horrible in them. She was always the hero.
Okay.
But then Laura Gemser also made films that were of that vein, which were not connected to Emmanuel, which were translated into English and released as Emmanuel films. So what you have here is you've got the main canon of Emmanuel films, and in there you've got the actual continuity of Emmanuel films. But then apart from that, you've got the non-canon Emmanuel films, which is the Black Emmanuel films. But then even in the Black Emmanuel films, you have non-canon Black Emmanuel films.
That makes my brain and sex hurt, somehow.
It's fucking crazy. And, like the Black Emmanuel films, and the non-canon Black Emmanuel films, includes Emmanuel in America, where she actually spends more of her time in the Caribbean and Italy and Cuba and Africa than actually America. And there's torture involved. And then there's...
Well, of course there's torture involved. It's a film about America. Oh, topical.
Yep. And there's Emmanuel's perverse outburst and Emmanuel and the white slave trade. You can see this is a different tonally from Emmanuel 4 and 5. Like, 5 was all like, I'm going to enslave you, Emmanuel, but it was all done off screen. Well, this one's like, Emmanuel enslaved.
And that's the 5-second version of that movie.
Pretty much. And I don't know why I have my weird interest in the Emmanuel films like I have with the Left Behind, the Rapture movies. I don't know. Can anyone explain this?
Because you're a lesbian?
I don't think that's an explanation for me liking Rapture movies.
Well, no, for Emmanuel, not Rapture movies.
Still don't think it's much of an explanation for that. I do not watch the Emmanuel films for their sexual content.
She said.
I find them... I dare anyone to watch Emmanuel films primarily to get off. It's ridiculous.
Honey,
it's very unsexy.
There's an entire channel on YouTube. Because, guys, what you don't understand is she'll send me, be like, oh, watch this YouTube clip, and just send me, like, a YouTube link, and I stupidly click on it. So then if I'm signed in to either my real Gmail or my Omega Mail, depending on who I'm signed in as next time I'm on a YouTube, you might want to watch this total porn channel. And I'm like, no, I don't, thank you. And it's all your fault. Like, if you send me bits from, like, really weird Asian kung fu lesbian sex movies, then it recommends them to me. Because it knows what I'm up to.
I have never come across an Asian lesbian kung fu movie.
Or something like that. Like something that you're like, oh, look at this, and then it says, you enjoyed this clip. Would you like to watch Asian lesbian kung fu?
Were you talking about Naked Killer?
No, it was you sent me a clip from something, and it was some bunch of schoolgirls with katanas, but live action, speaking in subtitles and beating up people with their boobs or something, and they're sort of recommending stuff like that to me. And it's all your fault.
You can thank me later.
No.
Do you love it?
Not really.
Are you sure you weren't talking about the Naked Killer movies? That sounds a lot like Naked Killer.
I don't think that it was.
Okay, fair enough. The Emmanuel films are just ridiculously cheesy, and I'm severely amused by the idea that there are people who use them unironically to get off. That just...
Well, why else would they be made?
Well, it's quite possible. The Emmanuel films sort of straddle the line between porn and art, and as in it's porn with pretensions of being art. But what I'm thinking is that's what it was made for at the time, to be shown in like art cinemas or in porn theaters or whatever. But today, the idea of people using it to get off is just faintly ridiculous to me.
Well, that's today when like anybody has Cinemax and stuff like that. But back in the day, you had to go to your art house to see like a nipple or something. Maybe all those people like who went to art house films back in the day, they weren't really interested in art. They were just horny teenagers.
Well, definitely some of them would have been. Though I think the reason that in America, art house, and in the UK as well, art house has a reputation of being sort of more sexual, is because most of the art films came from Italy and France. And Italy and France had much more relaxed nudity laws when it comes to films than America or the UK did at the time.
Yeah, but it seems to me everybody's always just nude for no good reason. Like, I mean, there'd be situations where you might not have any clothes on in your day-to-day life, like taking a shower, or going to the doctor, or changing at the gym. But it just seems that, like, people just sit around naked all the time in Europe. Like, I actually wondered that. I'm like, how come people are naked all the time in Europe when I'm told that they don't shower ever? Wouldn't that smell?
Well, what I meant at the time, I was talking about like from to the 60s, because in the 70s in America they started doing hardcore porn, and porn almost became mainstream for a little while. It was quite weird. Things like Deep Throat was really, really high grossing. You know the movie Orgasmo? Mm-hmm. There's the joke there is you get a porno becomes a big smash hit, mainstream smash hit. That almost happened in the 70s in America.
I believe you.
But the thing to remember about French and Italian things is, now, I can't really talk about France, but whenever I was over in Italy, I saw some just random Italian TV at like 7 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it was semi-pornographic even then.
Really? So like The Price is Right? Like everyone's topless?
Not really like having random topless people so much as the adverts and things were just semi-pornographic in the way that they were done. They had much more sexualized and nudity in things than I was used to, and considering the UK is generally has more relaxed laws on this sort of crap than America does, I'm guessing it would be even more of a culture shock for an American in the same position.
Well, I remember occasionally seeing, like, bits of, like, quote-unquote, a European art movie, like, on PBS or, like, you know, and you'd see this randomly. And I remember thinking, like, that's what Europeans do. They sit around, nude, and smoke, and have conversations that go nowhere in subtitles. And it really made me confused because I was told, oh, well, you know, in Europe, they don't ever take a bath. That's why everybody smells bad. And I was like, really? Yeah. So that's what I thought about Europe for the longest time.
Of course, maybe it's just the thing that the art movies that made it over to America were the ones with nudity because they're the ones they could sell.
That's also a good point. So I guess we'll never know.
I gotta say, I do love Art House. Art House is fucking amazing.
Why? Like, I mean, seriously, like a lot of art house movies, it seems to be like, we were going to make a movie about things and stuff. We decided to make a bad art house movie instead. There you go. And I'm like, really?
Well, it's the same reason I like trashy movies, because I want to see movies that are different from most. I want to see things that are doing things differently, whether it's good or bad. I want to see people using their imagination and doing things in a different way. I don't want to. As far as I'm concerned, boringness is the worst sin you can make in cinema.
It's a cinematic sin?
Yeah.
You see what I did there? I'm so clever.
I can totally see it even without my eyes.
And
Art House uses its imagination for better or for worse. And I really, really like that. Mainstream filmmaking films tend to be very similar and very safe, and I prefer it when they're not.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So yeah, this is why art house and exploitation films are wonderful bedfellows.
Well, see, that was everything you ever wanted to learn about Emmanuel and art house and what I thought about Europeans as a child. Amen.
I'm sure if we did some actual research, things would be far more interesting.
That's true. We should probably become a better podcast. Don't tell Blip. But we're almost to the second half of the show. Now we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to do Giovanni's Trivia Fact before the music break. We'll go to the music break and come back. But to tease what will be happening in for you about 5 minutes really. So last week we talked about the lost episodes of Doctor Who, and for anyone that has who think like me, who was thinking, how could they just throw this away? How could they just lock up the Scottish jewels in a box for 100 years? But if you have heard of SF Debris, check out his website, sfdebris.com. He has a really great two-part video about how that got led to, and what technology factors went into that, what cultural factors went into that, and it's really interesting when you stop to think about information and data and things that no one thinks will be important, and then 20 years later you wish you'd kept. For example, my SAT scores. See, I did have a point to this. So I'm, getting all my transcripts together. I'm going to go over and have a visit at this college in Northern Ireland. And the U.S. does things in a radically different system from the U.K. Apparently in the U.K., at 16, you could just stop going to school if you want to. And just no one will ask you any questions. You're like, yep, done with that. Or you can stay and take about 1 million tests for 2 years. Or something like that. I wikied it late at night. I wasn't really paying attention.
Well, it's not a case of you can stop. It's the mandatory school finishes, but then you can continue on doing things called A-levels, which are good for getting into university.
Oh. Yeah, see, it's not like that in the States. But so...
Yes, because we're better over here.
Shut up. The long story short is I don't match any of their programs, so I'm just bringing all of my information. And I thought, I might as well get my SAT scores. So I called the college board. And I said, I got this really, really nice lady on the phone. I said, look, I need my scores, but they're pretty old. And she said, well, when did you take the SAT? I said, 96, 97. She said, well, do you know what your registration number was? No. Do you know the exact date that you took the test? No. And she goes, okay, well, I can take some information from you and we'll see if we can find it anywhere. And I said, okay. So she was asking me all these questions, and I said, oh my gosh, 1997. And she said, what? And I said, I must have taken the SAT in 1997. And she said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, it must have been after February. And she said, okay. I said, well, you see, throughout the entirety of the test, I had the song Sex and Candy by Marcy Playground running through my head. And their debut album came out in February of 1997. So even if it got some radio play beforehand, it would have been in 97. And she said, that's good enough for me. And so I had to pay $30, and she put in a request, and I didn't hear anything for weeks. So I called them, I said, look, I don't even have a reference number to go off of in this receipt you sent me. And the woman I got said, well, you know, prior to 2002, everything was archived as a piece of paper in a box in a warehouse full of boxes somewhere. I mean, she was really nice too, but kind of like in the same tone of voice of, well, everything from the before times was archived in the Hall of Ancestors, chiseled onto a piece of rock. And so what she told me was there was no guarantee that they would even find it. So it was looking like I was going to have to actually take the SAT again in my 30s because no one thought to save this information, which was kind of important to me. So I called the university that I attended, and I said that I would have had to send my scores when I applied. So do you have that? She said, no, we purge that every 5 years. So I emailed the guidance secretary at my old high school, and I said, because I'd gotten my transcript from them, and I said, I know this is quite a reach, but you don't happen to have this information, do you? And she emailed me back this morning, and she said, well, we don't keep student scores, but there's a chance that we might have at the time that you attended. So let me see what I can find. She emailed me back, and she was able to find them. I ran over and I picked them up. But, like, literally, and I was thinking about that, you know, while I was thinking about Doctor Who. It's just the kind of things that you don't think are important until you absolutely need them. And then by chance, just because back in the day, the school district used to archive that information for my class, it still existed.
So now you've got your SAT, so you've got one small step on the way to going to university. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping that the fact that I'm a mature student, which is what they call a non-traditional student in the UK, will, you know, hopefully speak for something, because obviously I'm not some 18-year-old with my finger up my nose saying, yeah, I guess I'm going to go to college or something. No.
Honestly, you know, I'm not really sure about what you need, what you need, you know, to get into the university. But I'm thinking that you should have pretty much everything that is required. But even if you don't, you should be able to get some sort of, they'll make you take an extra course or something while you're doing it in order to make something up. Because I've seen people do that in university.
I mean, and I said when I spoke with the person that runs the department, you know, if there's any UK-specific qualification test that, you know, I need to take, I'm perfectly okay with taking that. If they want me to take the ACT, I'll take the ACT. But a friend of mine who's Irish said that sometimes this happens where procedurally you end up having to take the English qualification test even if you're a native English speaker. And I think that would be incredibly fun for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I could ace it.
I think you'll be fine for getting that sort of stuff. Have you had much luck talking to the American government about getting a loan or something?
Well, I can't fill out that paperwork until January 1st because the form for the fall term doesn't go up until the first day of 2014.
Okay.
So yeah, that I actually can't do yet.
Have you done any investigation to looking into that sort of stuff though?
Oh yeah, I mean I can go through my credit union, and I can even get a special rate because I'm a lifelong member. Or if I get, you know, another credit union member to co-sign, like one of my parents who've been in the credit union since the 70s, you know, that brings down my rate even further.
1870s.
Shut up. But anyway, speaking of world issues, it's time for Giovanna's trivia fact.
So we're kind of meandering all around. We're like, we're talking about something, and then we're sort of petering out, and we'll just talk about something else. This is a very half-hearted episode. I completely deny and reject us, and I throw ourselves under the bus.
That's because we're so excited about the special guest we have in the next few minutes.
We don't have a special guest. We've got another version of you in a silly accent.
No, that's not how it is. But anyway, it's time for everyone's favorite lobster. Giovanni, are you with us?
Yeah, well, sure I am.
Fuck you, Giovanni.
Stop it! You know, I had my segment moved. Get it? Segments, because I'm an arthropod, and never mind. But anyway, I had my segment moved, so I'm being very accommodating to you and your special guest. Just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, so since we're already talking about international stuff, it's an international trivia question. Now, did you know that although you look at maps, you'd think that Africa is not much bigger than Greenland, you know? In fact, it's nearly 20 times bigger. It's true. 22% of the world's landmass is in Africa. Africa is actually massive, but most of the maps that we have are 2D representations of a 3D globe, and a lot of times people take some liberties with size, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, people shit on the southern hemisphere.
All over it, baby. But anyway, that's been me, and I'm going to go out before I get insulted anymore, even though I know that my adoring public would never do so. So bye, everybody. Bye.
Well, at least you only said fuck you one time.
He's adorable.
Oh, yeah, he is. But, so, anyway, we're going to go to our music break, featuring the always melodic, always talented Tony Goldberg, which we really do have to get on for an interview at some point in time. And then we're coming back with the second half of the show, our special topic, and our special guest.
When we bring Tony Goldberg in, we could talk to him about something crazy, like the dystopian Disney art house movie that he hates.
Yeah. Or we could count how many times during the conversation he says Weird Al Yankovic.
17.
She's here, she's there, she's everywhere. There ain't no way to escape her. Through the air, she'll dive. She's hip to your jive. She can tear your soul like paper. With a clap, a snap, a Boudica zap in a manner oh so graphic. She is wild, she's tame, that mysterious dame only lives to wreak some havoc. She's as wicked as a witch, and as old as the Mona Lisa. She's got style and stealth, so pray for your health. She's the ghost of Mother Teresa.
I'll get you!
Holy smoke, the Pope, that lovable dope is her roommate down in Churchtown. And she won't obey, there isn't a way to keep a dear old gal like her down. She will trip your feet, and then she'll eat all the chips right under your nose. She'll slide through the door, slip through the floor, there's no telling where that floor goes. Yeah, she's nuttier than a squirrel, but more vicious than Julius Caesar. She will burn the roast and crucify toast. She's the ghost of Mother Teresa.
The Ghost of Mother Teresa is a Catholic Church production brought to you by Lockheed Martin Heat-Seeking Gaydar. For when you absolutely need to know whose soul is beyond repair, Lockheed Martin Heat-Seeking Gaydar. And by I Can't Believe It's Not Jesus, brand non-fat communion wafers. All the guilt with none of the guilt.
Of Mother Teresa.
Okay, and welcome back to Lesbian Talk. This is, if memory serves, episode 33. And we have ourselves a special guest who I'm sure is probably mentioned in the description somewhere. But if you didn't pay attention to the description, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the
Voice?
The voice, SF Debris with us.
Greetings.
And we are going to discuss the magnificent haul of missing Doctor Who episodes that happened recently. So,
Well, haul in the loose term.
well, it's the biggest single selection to be grabbed since Tomb of the Cybermen back in '94, I think.
That's a good point.
Half of all of the missing episodes that have been found in the last 25 years were found last week.
Yeah, it was really big deal. So even if the rumor that says that there are more out there, even if that's not true, it's still a massive thing to celebrate if you're a complete nerd and anorak like we are.
See, I have the feeling that there's got to be. Like, if you think about how big the world is and how many addicts there are and how many thrift shops, there's got to be somewhere. You know, someone who's in America whose father worked for PBS and he has a few of the reels in the attic and they've just never looked at them.
Well, PBS didn't show Doctor Who until after the destruction, I don't think.
No copies of Troughton or Hartnell came to America until after all that had happened.
Oh, that's depressing then. Never mind.
Yeah, it's very depressing. But there's only a couple of episodes which, if I remember correctly, that we have almost no chance of finding. That'd be like the Feast of Stephen and things like that. Most of them, there's a slim chance, but going on hope mostly.
Yeah.
So out of all of the ones that are missing, because if you're a Doctor Who fan out there, you know that there's a fuckload missing, which of them, which is your personal favourite, which you would like to see in the flesh, so to speak?
Power of the Daleks, no question. It had the first Troughton one, and besides all that, it was definitely one of the greatest Dalek stories of that era.
It is definitely, it's unique among Dalek stories. It's not the usual Terry Nation rejigging the same shit that happened quite a lot in the early years. And, well, all through the thing, really.
Exactly. Someone else came in, I forget the gentleman's name at the moment, had to write those 2 stories for the last season of the Daleks, and took it in a different direction. And so it was really a very a different piece, because there was this, the Doctor being brand new plot, and then there was the Dalek plot, and then there was all of the politics in the colony plot, all of these plots and counterplots going on amongst them, so that you had all these different layers to the story there, so that even though it's a 6-part story, it really only feels like maybe 4.
And on top of that, you've got the fact that the Doctor being brand new, you've never seen a regeneration before, and the Daleks are being nice. So for a little while, you're unsure as to what the fuck's going on.
Exactly.
That's very well, it's a well-placed story.
Never trust a smiling Dalek. That should be on a t-shirt.
Well, the only other time they smiled really was victory for the Daleks, and that was just not good, worth talking about. Personally, out of all the missing ones, my favorite to get back would probably be Fury from the Deep. It's wonderful. The one of the shots that we do have, the famous one of the scream of the guy, he looks like he's screaming, but he's actually ejaculating gas. That's my favorite image from Doctor Who. Best
that sounds
shot
like an unfortunate
history.
medical complication.
Yes, I chose an unfortunate word for that.
Okay. You can continue now.
He's possessed by evil sea stuff, and he's like spewing gas out of his mouth, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, the thing about the Fury from the Deep is that everything about it sounds ridiculous. But if you actually, quote unquote, watch it, it's really scary.
Yeah.
It's an amazing achievement when they take seaweed, foam, and spraying gas out of your mouth and turn into something horrifying like they managed to do.
Yeah, it's just really, really, really good. Like my favorite Doctor is Troughton. So no matter what story we get, I'm happy to see more Troughton. So I would not be unhappy to see Power of the Daleks. I don't think you've ever answered this before in one of your videos. Who is your favorite Doctor?
Tom Baker.
Ah, interesting. Any particular reason, or just he was your first?
Well, he was my first, definitely. But even afterwards, and I had seen all of them, and I started going back and then just watching the series years later in order, I was like, there was a reason why I liked this. I mean, just there's something about his performance that he managed to capture that alien aspect of the Doctor with his behavior. Like, for instance, the way he would pick up a glass and hold it to his ear, and he's not just doing it for eccentricity's sake, but he has a reason in mind as to why the Doctor would behave that way if you ask him about it. So it's not just weird for weirdness' sake, but he has nevertheless this alien quality to him.
Yeah,
certainly the most laid back of the Doctors.
I don't know. Peter Davison was a bit more laid back, I think.
Yeah, but that might have been due to his wimp factor. He's like the second most wimpy after David Tennant.
Yeah, Omega is a unrepentant Colin Baker fan.
Because he's so great and autistic and wonderful. and a friend of mine, yes, we're talking to you, Cryptic Psych, went to New York Comic Con and got me his autograph. So he is the best person ever now in the world.
The other ones, the other stories that are missing, out of the other ones, I think my top would be Galaxy 4, simply because I adore the Dravens. Fascist, probably lesbian supermodels in go-go outfits, just, they're amazing.
It is surprising that they haven't done anything more with them over the years, especially with Russell T. Davies and Moffat coming on board, old school fans of the show, that they didn't, I think they name-checked the Dravens, but that's it.
Yeah, and the Pandorica opens. And I recently reviewed Love and Monsters, and I sort of went into a whole tangent about the Hoyks, where I explained about the continuity issue, where the Hoyks is a mindless beast in Love and Monsters, but it's part of the Alliance in the Pandorica opens, and I sort of segue into just ranting about the fact that I didn't get to see the Dravens then, even though they'd be so damn cheap to put on screen again, and how I just wanted to see Dravens, though I think I just wanted to stop myself from watching Love and Monsters for a while.
See, I think a lot of these plots sound like a really good idea at the time. And then you write the script and you give it over to the production department and everything goes downhill from there.
Which one, Love and Monsters?
Yeah. Like, I could see how that could have worked, but I don't know.
I don't want to think about it. I have to review it in a few months, and I'm trying to put that off as long as possible.
As long as you get a Scooby-Doo joke in there, you'll be fine. Oh, random question. Most Who fans I know have a severe problem with the oral sex joke at the end of Love and Monsters. Are you in that camp?
Not a problem. I don't know. It's just, I guess I don't really care. I'm not that prudish.
Yeah, that's pretty much my opinion. I really don't understand everyone's severe upset about it. I'm more annoyed about the fact that the Doctor basically took this woman and forced her to be, without her consent, forced her to live as a sentient paving slab for the rest of time. It strikes me as warped.
It's a bit odd that he sees a Cyberman and says, oh, I've got to put him out of their misery, but yeah, a piece of tiling, oh, sure, that's no problem.
Yeah, it's... I think that's the bigger issue. But
I told you, honey, it's because New Who is... Everything about New Who is the power of love compels you. Every single damn time.
All too often you're right about that. But back to the missing episodes. Okay, if you had to replace any of the existing stories with one of the missing ones, as in you destroy this story and you get this other one back, I'm guessing you'd bring back Power of the Daleks, but what would you destroy?
Creature from the Pit.
I like Creature from the Pit. Mostly, not mostly. Like, I like the fact that the Doctor attempted to fillet the monster's tendril. It makes a really funny gif.
I think Nash did a review of that one. I think I recall.
Oh, I think he did, yeah.
Again, something that probably seemed like a really good idea when it was written out at 11 o'clock at night.
Oh no, that was Tom Baker just messing around.
Oh, that wasn't written.
Yeah, he sort of it's a non-verbal ad-lib. He just decided it would be funny for the Doctor. He's trying to communicate with this giant monster, and he decides it doesn't work verbally, so he tends to suck on one of its tentacles, or blow into one of its tentacles.
The monster said.
That was the time when Tom Baker could get away with just about anything, so.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority, but I really quite like that. If I was going to destroy one, it would, honestly, might well be if it was going to be classic Who, probably the Twin Dilemma or Time Flight or something.
I like the Twin Dilemma, kind of, a bit.
Well, Twin Dilemma was awful. Are you ever going to review it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to get to that eventually.
Excellent. Okay, for anyone who has never seen doesn't know much about the whole saga of the missing episodes, SF did an amazing set of 2 videos about why the hell the BBC decided to try a fire-based archiving system in the 70s. And just could you give the cliff notes just for the audience who are here, as brief as you can, because it would take way too long for me to meander through it all.
Well, the general idea is that Doctor Who was recorded on videotape originally, but these aren't like VHS tapes. They're these huge things called quad tapes. And they were extremely expensive and brand new technology at the time. And so what they would do is they were so expensive that it was part of your production budget. And you wouldn't get that money back to reuse unless you would wipe the tape and reuse it. So eventually all of the tapes were wiped because they were held in the hands of the engineering department rather than in the archive. Meanwhile, BBC Enterprises, which handled all of the overseas distribution, were dealing with countries that didn't have videotape yet because the technology was only about 5 years old at the time. And so they converted all of that over onto film. And because film can't be re-recorded, it was easier to archive, except they were not an archiving department. There was no archiving department at BBC, really. So they assumed that they had just copies of the originals, and everybody else assumed that somebody else had copies of the originals. So eventually, when it was decided these just aren't going to sell anymore, then they started destroying them, assuming that they were just destroying duplicate copies instead of the only surviving copies that were left.
It's like a really, really tragic comedy of errors.
Yeah.
You know what I wondered, because I actually, Hagen did link me to your videos, and I watched them the other day. I wonder if it wasn't a symptom of how the British folks look at time, because I'm always saying, oh, look at this thing, it's really old, it's historical, it's from 1850-something. And, everyone's like, oh, right, 1850s, that was old. Because to them, old is like the Middle Ages. So the idea that, we just recorded this yesterday, no one's going to care about it in a few years, I'll throw it away.
This is possible. Culturally, the UK does tend to view old and new as slightly different from America.
There is a bit of an issue in the fact that because it was so new, that the idea of television being something that you would archive was a bit alien of an idea. It would be, for instance, like saying, hey, does anybody have an archive of Yahoo from 1999? And you say, well, why the hell would you want that? It would be that same kind of idea. Why do you want this old, outdated television show?
That is a good point.
We've got all this brand new color stuff.
It's a good point, though. Ironically, I think you can get an archive of Yahoo from 1999.
Well, actually, Google did a thing. I want to say this was 2008 or 2009, where I think it was their 10th anniversary or something. They let you search the internet as it was 10 years ago. I don't know how they managed to do this, and I found old sites, like old GeoCities and Angel Fire sites, and I quickly copied all the content off of them, like old websites I had in high school. Back when you didn't even need HTML, you could just make up a site. That was pretty cool.
Right, but the idea is that nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but it
Nobody
wasn't generally thought that we should preserve this early history of the internet for posterity. It was, this is an evolving thing, and the old stuff needs to be left behind, kind of a thing. I guess you could say the same thing about, like, YouTube, for instance. How many of the early videos that were posted on YouTube have come down and nobody has a copy of them anymore?
That's a pretty good point.
Yeah, that's a very good comparison.
So everybody back up everything, buy huge 5 terabyte drives, just archive everything, because 100 years from now, you're going to be saying, I remember, if you're alive, there was this one lowcat, I'd give anything to see it again.
Unfortunately, your terabyte drive wouldn't last that long anyway.
I backed it up 3 different times. Stop correcting people on the internet. The end.
It's in this data crystal now. I've uploaded it to the hive mind.
Exactly. I was promised data crystals when I was a child. Where are they? Nowhere.
I think they're like working on them, like some quantum thingy. I don't know. I'm a complete Luddite.
See, and the government shut down. Make me data crystals. That's all I ask.
We might meander back to Doctor Who, but for right now, are there any other stuff that the BBC destroyed around the same time which you would be particularly interested in seeing back again?
I'm not personally familiar with all of that stuff because the only reason I know about Doctor Who is because I was a fan of the show from later on. So going back to the earlier stuff, I'm not. I know that Dad's Army is missing. Zed-Cars was missing. I think some of the Avengers were, but I had never gotten into those shows. Because there's, no spaceships and stuff. So personally, no. But obviously from a pure fan of historical entertainment as a concept, certainly I want to see them find these things that are out there. And part of what is so great about what happened is not just that we got a bunch of Doctor Who back, but we have raised the awareness of the whole missing episodes issue. And not just episodes, but films. Last year, I believe, a new short of the Three Stooges was found.
Was it? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this kind of thing makes people aware that if I find an old box full of film reels, I may have found the only copies in existence of these things. In fact, that's what a lot of people say when they've come forward or have destroyed these things. They say, well, I just assumed this was one of hundreds of copies, not the only one in existence.
Yeah, wasn't it not that long ago when they discovered, if it's not complete, it was a nearly complete version of Metropolis?
Yes, I believe so.
There are so many interesting things which have been lost. Like my personal on my top list for feature films would probably be London After Midnight, but the half of Orson Welles' director's cuts are missing. The Spider Pit sequence from King Kong. We almost lost Nosferatu because of Bram Stoker's Widow. It's insane the stuff that has been lost or was nearly lost.
Well, do you buy into any credence? I know that the rumor, at least on Reddit, for a while, was that this rumor came up about like 6 months ago. As I remember hearing it, I was like, didn't we just hear about this? And everyone said it was a rumor.
I tweeted about it when I heard about it and was, I was trying to work out how likely I thought it was. Yeah.
But now the going rumor is that actually there were more, but no one wants to say too much about it because they're still in talks. Do you put any credence to that?
No. Unfortunately, what the situation we have here is kind of ridiculous because these kinds of things can be very sensitive or even dangerous. You're going into, for instance, I hope this doesn't seem politically incorrect, but a lot of Africa is in turmoil at times. and you could wind up being in a very dangerous situation, and people inquiring about things could wind up putting those who are searching in jeopardy. So some secrecy is necessary. At the same time, when these rumors come up, you can't really quash them, because if you've misled people, with the best of intentions, but if you've misled them in the past, then you can't convince people that there's nothing, even if it's the truth, because they'll say, well, how do I know you're not trying to trick me again?
Exactly.
So there's no way to really crush these rumors anymore. But personally, Paul Venezis said that all that they found has been returned, and they're still looking, but there is nothing there that they're holding back at the moment, and I believe him.
It's good that he's being honest, but that's really sad to hear.
I'm going to hold on to a little hope that there's a couple of more ones, simply because the rumor, well, there was the original rumor that there was the Massive Haul, but then it sort of metamorphosized into Enemy of the World and The Web of Fear and Marco Polo. And obviously what Enemy of the World and Web of Fear was correct. So perhaps I'm being foolish, but I'm hoping that we'll get Marco Polo at some point.
He did specifically say that Marco Polo they do not have. It's not being restored now. It's not been located. That's just part of the Omni rumor, as they call it.
That's a real pity.
Yeah.
We could hold out hope that maybe there's some eccentric person dying of a terrible disease that has all of the missing episodes, and if they live to the 50th anniversary, they'll come out and say, I've been saving them all this time, in the same voice from the future.
That is a really, really particular thing to wish for and hope for.
My mind goes in different ways.
It's actually not far off, because they did have pretty much that exact same situation. Only the person had passed away, and it was the widow, I believe, who said, we've got these. And it was old Doctor Who, but it was stuff that we already had.
Oh.
So it certainly is a scenario, because it basically happened, except it was already in the archive. It just needs to be stuff that we haven't gotten yet.
How much would you kick yourself if you discovered, oh, look, more Doctor Who, and he's like, out of all of the ones we've got, these are all duplicates. How much would you kick yourself?
Well,
the amazing thing is we have one videotape from the Troughton era. It's the Space Pirates. It's also the only episode of the Space Pirates that we already have on film. Somebody recorded at home. Just that one episode.
Why the Space Pirates of all episodes to record?
Maybe they like pirates.
Well, it was near the end of Troughton's run. Space Pirates is the last of the missing episodes. So, that's earliest VCRs out there, latest missing episodes. It was the rare moment when they collided.
Maybe that person was like, I got this new technology, I'm going to try it out, and just recorded one random episode. Said, well, that works.
Although I can actually think of one big reason why you would in particular want to record the Space Pirates. Because you got Sims from Adam Adamant Lives doing a ridiculous accent.
You're obsessed with that show.
It's a wonderful piece of 1960s sort of stuff. Plus, it's got a bunch of missing episodes, so it's perfectly fine to mention here. I really wish they'd find the missing 15 or so episodes of Adam Adamant.
See, honey, you could be the trailbreaker. You could be the famous one that you searched across the world and found all the Adam Adamants.
Nah, if they're going to find Adam Adamant, they'd find them around the time when they were looking for Doctor Who, because no one's looking deliberately for Adam Adamant, but if they're going to find them, they'll find them in the same place as Doctor Who.
Yeah, Philip Morris is looking for any old television that should be archived, not just Doctor Who.
So why don't you do a documentary about him and call it I Love You, Philip Morris?
Oh, that's terrible. Fired.
It'll be so appropriate, though.
It's because
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit starstruck. You're one of the most talented people doing internet reviews, and I'm a little bit starstruck, and I apologize.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, my cousin Kevin's a big fan. He'll, share the stuff on Facebook, and I say, aw, that's so cute, because he's in college.
Plus, I'm in awe of the fact that usually when I discuss Doctor Who, I'm the smartest person in the room, but you completely dwarf me, so this is like, the Doctor meeting Zoe, or I don't know which of us is who, but...
You have been humbled.
Yeah, completely.
I don't know how that translates to a win for me, but somehow it does.
Because you can be all like, point to this in the future.
Exactly.
Okay, random Doctor Who question, because I don't know when I'll have the opportunity to talk to you again. If all of the Doctors were going to have a battle royale, who would win? In a fight.
In a fight?
Yes.
That's an odd one. I guess I would put my money on Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, interesting. Why him in particular?
He's got the look of a scrapper. He's the kind of guy who would look for a pipe.
Now, see, I got called classist once when I said I didn't like him as the Doctor. One of Hagen's commenters said I was being classist. I was like, I'm not even British. I can't even be classist. Stop it.
And then I believe I responded with, whenever I finally reviewed Christopher Eccleston review, you can accuse me of it because I don't like him either. But yeah, if there was a big fight, I don't know. I think it would come down to, in the end, John Pertwee, Colin Baker, and Tom Baker.
Yeah, because John Pertwee, he's like the Dr. James Bond.
Yeah, plus Colin Baker could,
He's got the size.
Yeah, and Tom Baker's large enough as well. It's only things for sure, though. William Hartnell, Paul McGann, Patrick Troughton, and Sylvester McCoy will be thrown out of the ring very quickly indeed.
Yeah, because they're all old and everything. And, like, David Tennant would be off crying somewhere because he got slapped once in the face. Like the pussy he is. I mean, what?
Oh, I'm changing my answer. Peter Capaldi would win.
Oh! Oh, we love the Capaldi. Oh, random Doctor Who question again. Because I figure I don't know when I'm going to be talking to you again. So, out of all of the one-shot aliens in Doctor Who, which would you like to see return the most? Or you can choose more than one if you wish.
You know, I actually kind of liked the robots from Robots of Death.
Oh, the Vox.
Yeah.
They were quite cool. Although, like you'd really have to do some script writing tricks to really make them into villains, so that they'd be tricky to write for. Personally, I would go for the Dravens, the Raston, and the Androgams.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, the guy that from the Two Doctors?
Yeah, the ones who are obsessed with food. The Two Doctors, it wasn't very good. Although I really think the Androgams could be a really good race if handled correctly. I just think you could really play in it with them. You could really play in the New Who thing with the last of the Time Lords by having like the Emperor of the Androgams really wants to eat the last Time Lord or something.
That's true, because it would be like the ultimate delicacy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question that I have for you.
No offense, but that sounds really ridiculous.
Oh, incredible!
She does this all the time.
That sounds like some kind of cartoon plot from Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, but it would fit with the Androgams from the Two Doctors.
Well, I have a question for you. So I appreciate Doctor Who on a different level than Hagen, because I became a fan so recently, and most of the stuff that I have watched has been Classic Who with just a bit of the more recent seasons. And my opinion was, and I'm just checking this with other people that, again, are not my wife, was that really they haven't been playing up that much the fact that he's the last one of his species that he destroyed with his own hands. So when the Doctor gets upset about stupid little bullshit that doesn't matter, or he'll just swan around like, well, it's just another day for me, do you feel that they should be conveying that more, or am I just off the boat on this?
I think part of it is that the Doctor is so old and has had to do so much and has made so many mistakes. That is kind of more than just that event. It's the embodiment of all of that, and that he has to just kind of leave it behind. That's why the Dream Lord manifests, because it's all of that repressed aspect of himself that he has to kind of leave behind, or else he winds up in a funny hat living in the clouds.
Only one thing can make a family cry on Christmas. Oh, so stupid.
Yeah, she's not a fan of the snowman.
Okay, it was good, but then he's like, brackish cheers over London, a place that's not, involved with an estuary at all. Only one thing can happen. The whole entire Tears of family on Christmas. And I was like, really? You're an alien. Grow up. But then again, like I said, I have vastly differing opinions from everybody else in the world.
Well, I had a very similar opinion. I grew up, I was part of the last generation in the UK who watched Classic Who remembers watching Classic Who in its initial release. So my first memory of watching Doctor Who was watching Time and the Rani and being annoyed that the Doctor wasn't blonde anymore. So I'm very sort of strongly in the Doctor Who, the Doctor as how he is in the classic series. So much less human, much definitely not a fan of romantic connections with the characters, stuff like that. So I agree with you on the Snowman.
Well, let us ask our esteemed guest, what is your opinion on the companion Rose? Because I know where Hagen stands, she hates her, and I've only seen about, like, one episode with her.
I don't know, she's all right. She's not, she's
no Sarah Jane?
She's a cupboard door. We need her, but life would go on if we didn't have her.
That's pretty good, actually.
I'm not a fan of Rose, but it's not a case of I absolutely despise her. She is a middling to not very good companion that everyone thinks the world of, and even in the show itself. So that's where the animosity comes from. If they treated her like a companion on the level of, say, Melanie Bush, then I would be much more amenable to her.
You heard it right here, folks. What everyone really thinks about Rose Tyler.
We are reaching roughly about half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you'd like to bring up? You can tell us how much we suck, or you can, if you tell everyone where they can see your stuff, anything like that, Chuck. You can mention anything you've got in the works.
I'm at sfdebris.com. Got a lot of different stuff planned for the rest of the year, including looking at all 4 rediscovered episodes next month in the build-up to the 50th anniversary.
Which we're really looking forward to. Apparently, the cinema where I usually do my vlogs, it apparently is showing the 50th anniversary special.
You should go watch it there with Aaron. I'll just watch it on BBC America.
Oh, if it's showing it, I'll go to see it there, but it's a rumor right now, so we'll see. But thank you very much for your time, and I hope it wasn't too painful.
Not at all.
You're now an honorary lesbian, so you can tell all your friends and family. Aren't you happy?
I've been hoping for this.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so now it's time for everybody's favorite part, at least my favorite part of the show, because it means we're almost over. Oh, I've got the dictionary.
Omega hates this job.
No, I don't. Honey, what page should I turn to?
13.
You always pick why are you picking the beginning of the thing every time?
Okay, 521.
All right, that's better. That's more interesting.
Is it? Is it really?
Yeah, because we always end up like with A or B words.
Any bets there's at least one fan out there who has bought a copy of an American dictionary just to try and, follow along with us to work out what it is before you say it?
That's weird.
It's weird, but it's also unlikely.
True. All right, so 1 or 2?
2.
1, 2. 25.
22.
Okay. Pottery. Vessels and other objects made of baked clay. A potter's work or workshop.
Okay, so just Potter.
Yeah, you're lucky because you're a 1-up from potty. We could have talked about the potty queen. The potty queen is not amused.
The term potty is only ever used over here with connection to the sort of baby's toilet.
Yeah, that's what it is for us too.
But I thought you used it generally for toilet as well.
No, it's not an adult word to use.
Oh, did you know? According to QI, no word.
Here we go.
No word.
Bless
in
me,
English,
QI, for I have sinned.
No word in the English language for toilet is actually a proper word for toilet. They are all euphemisms.
I think you told me that actually one time.
Oh.
Well, you told me off the show, so it doesn't count. But anyway, I've been the Omega Geek, and who have you been?
Linkara.
Okay. She's been Linkara, and we had our special guest, SF Debris. You can find his work at sfdebris.com. He's also on Blip, so check him out because he's really awesome.
Although I'm pretty sure that everyone who listens to our show has come across him before. If you're the one person who hasn't, check his stuff out. Really, please do. He's incredibly talented.
And that's been episode 33. We'll see you guys next week.